down past the 1400-meter marker, and Zeus is at the back end of the field. The runners take the side of the course now, and leading it is Purple Pitcher. Purple Pitcher's the leader by 2 lengths.
Broadcasting live from the Capitol OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Brian,
welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I am Seth Merrow, and we're going to take you through some action for today, a little recap action as well as we're on the verge of December, wrapping up November, but that means Thanksgiving week, which always has nice stakes action, and we'll preview some of that, as I say, as we go through the course of the hour or a little bit later on. We'll do that with Joe Kristufek because it is closing weekend at Churchill, so we'll do a little recap on some of that action. Also, Joe had a winner yesterday with Johnny's Fireball, part of his brilliant racing partnership. We'll talk a little bit about that with Joe as well. Joe, of course, the paddock commentator down at Churchill. And then next week, I assume you'll see him down at the fairgrounds because I'm sure he's hopping in the car probably Monday to head down to New Orleans where he spends the winter. So we'll have Joe coming up a little bit later on. But some nice stakes action also, as is typical this time of year, out on the West Coast with a big stakes weekend. And part of that action will be the Hollywood Derby with Carson's Run from West Point Thoroughbreds. They have some other nice horses in this weekend as well. So I thought, who better to reach out to than our friend Tom Bellhouse from West Point Thoroughbreds. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Seth, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Same to you. Appreciate it. And not only will we do a little preview, but when I contacted you, I said we'll do a little review too. It's been a nice, 3-4 week run for West Point.
Yeah, it seems like it's just all the good fortune we had coming out of the summer has really just given us quite a run. It's an awesome feeling having older horses that are in training and especially when you talk about Carson, a horse that is running at the highest level in Grade 1 races. And
why don't we just start with Carson's Run? Again, they've got a nice slate of stakes throughout the holiday weekend out on the West Coast, and the Hollywood Derby is certainly one of those. Grade 1 event, $300,000 up for grabs, mile and 1/8 on the turf out at Del Mar later today. And I pulled up a replay of the most recent race from Carson's Run, Jockey Club Derby at Belmont at Aqueduct. Nice win here. Carson's Run will be the number 3 horse, getting it done over number 5 Deterministic, who came out and had a victory, came out of this race and subsequently had a victory. So that was a nice win for Carson's Run. We all remember the nice win, the Saratoga Derby up at Saratoga this season. A nice emotional victory for Carson's Run, popular victory as well. But as I say, followed up here as we're watching the stretch run in the Jockey Club Derby and now heads out to the West Coast. Was that kind of the plan right coming out of this race to head to the Hollywood Derby?
Yeah, it's, with this time of year, with a 3-year-old, it's very easy to get lulled into the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
And, we're coming out of as you mentioned, the Saratoga Derby, running second at Kentucky Downs for the big money, and then putting it together in this race. If you watch, we're probably right about at the edge of how far he really wants to go with that mile and 3/8. And, the Grade 1 against straight 3-year-olds at Del Mar just seemed much more logical than taking a swing in the Breeders' Cup as a 3-year-old. I think if this was next year, I think we'll all dream of taking a shot at Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup. But, when you can run against straight 3-year-olds, and trust me, this is not an easy group we're up against today out there. And I don't know, the dynamics of Del Mar always make me a little nervous with a stretch runner. We've run in some big races out there with horses like Decorated Invader, and that is probably the shortest stretch in all of horse racing. So Carson's going to have to make his move and come running, and Dylan's riding at the top of his game. We're just looking for a clean trip, and he's a dream of a lifetime horse. That he was a $170,000 purchase at the 2-year-old sale. Not a what you'd call a killer pedigree, but to win over $1.5 million and win 5 races, and second as a baby in the With Anticipation, and second down in Nashville for the big money. I mean, just amazing horse, and the ride he's taking our partners on is second to none. We've owned him in conjunction with Steve Boucher, another great local owner, and we're hoping to put a cherry on what's been a magical 3-year-old season. It
really has been, and after a good 2-year-old season, you mentioned the With Anticipation, then you go up to Woodbine and win the summer up there, Grade 1. It was the notable victory on the resume for Dylan Davis this summer in Saratoga Derby. As I said, a popular victory, an emotional victory, and part of that great summer that Dylan Davis had, and you're taking him out to the West Coast, and why not? Because Dylan had that fabulous summer, and he's kept it rolling right through the fall down in New York as well. And we were out the Finger Lakes a few weeks ago for the New York Breeders' Futurity. He was out and he won that. So I tip my hat to you guys being part of that Dylan Davis, locomotive that started at Saratoga.
Well, you think about it, and you mentioned the summer last year. I mean, you were up there. I mean, that was when Dylan was just starting to, There's questions after that race. Do you leave Dylan on for the Breeders' Cup? Do you move to a guy like Rosario who knows Santa Anita or something like that? And the team remained committed. Like, hey, listen, this is an up-and-coming guy that's just finally hitting his stride in his career. And what's happened since then, it's almost hard to believe. You'd be hard-pressed to find a jockey other than maybe Flavian Pratt and Irad Ortiz who've had a better year than him.
Yeah, it has been phenomenal. And that's the notable thing about Saratoga. You always have to say it. I mean, he had all kinds of wins, but he had a crazy ROI, which makes the wins even more impressive. He wasn't winning on necessarily the favorite by any means. And then, as I say, just kept it going in the fall as well. So he's going to be interesting, as you say, a nice full field of 13 in here. What are your expectations? I mean, as you say, he tends to sit, mid-pack or a little back and then make a late run. I would assume that's going to be the game plan. But what's the anticipation for this afternoon?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you want to say, okay, listen, let's save ground and come running. The one thing is that final turn is so tight. I think that you might have to give up a little and just let him make his run and see. I think he is that good when he's on his A game. Carson has that tremendous turn of foot that just pops. You see with some great turf horses. And listen, we're going to be up against it from the race dynamics and from the short stretch, but he's that good. So let's get it, just get him rolling.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Again, that's later on today. It's race number 9 at Del Mar. You have some other action this afternoon as well. Nice 2-year-old stakes day down at Churchill, and it's always fun to have a nice 2-year-old. And it looks like you do with Keep It Easy. Partnership as well with some others in this one, trained by Dale Romans. Corey Lannery will be on board this afternoon. Last time out, Saratoga Special up the maiden victory. Didn't fare that well in that event. Has been off now since the middle of August. But I'm going to pull up the maiden breaker at Churchill back in June. Keep It Easy is going to be number 11 horse and gets it done at 23-1 and gets it done pretty nicely with a 79 buyer. Talk a little bit about the follow-up in the Saratoga Special. What was the situation coming out of that, and what do you expect this afternoon from Keep It Easy?
Well, Keep It Easy is a horse that Dale's always been super high on. He's a son of Heartspun, and actually was really disappointed with his debut race. He thought that even though he was 10-1, that he would run much better. Move fast forward, only a couple of weeks, 3 weeks to his maiden breaker. You see, there's a big gray horse in the background there. Well, that was that was Sandman. And Sandman was one of our other horses that went on to break his maiden up at Saratoga and his stakes place. So keep it easy. I think they kind of fell asleep on him that day on the board, and he just put the effort together. Of course, from a wagering standpoint, I needed Sandman to just hit third, so he hit the triple. But no, it was a great performance, and the Saratoga Special was basically a nightmare. We stumbled coming out of the gate, out of the chute there on the 6.5 furlong chute over at Saratoga. And when we stumbled, we went underneath the horse next to us. Somehow, Junior Alvarado stayed on, and Manny Franco was on the 8, and somehow he stayed on. And it was really just, a pretty crazy situation, how we were able to keep going and stay upright and not fall off. And he come out of the race pretty cut up. And it was just a nightmare. We're sitting there, you're 3 to 1 in the Saratoga Special and have that debacle at the beginning. So we gave him some time, and he had a little hiccup. He took about a month off from training, but I expect a big effort. This is a nice horse, and whether or not he comes flying off the bench today, but I'm expecting that he's a horse that you're going to hear from in the next couple months, whether it's today or at Gulfstream.
Again, that's race 6 this afternoon at Churchill, the Ed Brown. And the maiden victory we just looked at was down at Churchill, so has an affinity for the track. We'll see what happens this afternoon with Keep It Easy. And I wanted to look at one more from today, horse that's been nice and productive for you guys at West Point. Shug trainee, Dripping Gold in a $100,000 handicap this afternoon down at Gulfstream on the Tapeta, which I found a little bit interesting. A turf runner for most of the career, for all of the career. And I pulled up a replay going back to September 7th. This is Kentucky Downs. I always like to win down there with the money that they put up. Number 6, Dripping Gold, does get it done. This was 2 starts back. Followed that up at Keeneland, running an okay third last time. But what are your thoughts this afternoon down at Gulfstream, race number 9 for Dripping Gold?
I still don't know where that race at Kentucky Downs came from. That was one of the greatest races. I mean, when you watch him just explode coming up that hill to finish and ends up winning by like 6 lengths, and then he backs it up with another terrific performance at Keeneland. I mean, just really been something that the light bulb has gone on. Not that he hasn't run numbers that are ultra consistent. If you look at him, dating back to last year, he's always running in that high 80, low 90 buyer. But that race that they're showing at Kentucky Downs, he just all of a sudden exploded as they went up the hill, and we're like, where did that come from? And then to back it up against some really, really nice horses, a horse named Paros who's come into his own down at Keeneland. I mean, I'm excited to see where we go. Shug feels that, the synthetic is a great unknown. Believe it or not, we did buy him at OBS also as a 2-year-old, and he trained on synthetic. So it's, we think that we have a good shot today. If he runs either of his last 2 races, he'll be very, very tough to beat.
And that's funny. You mentioned that Kentucky Downs, and where did that? It was a lifetime best buyer. I wonder if somebody did a study. I wonder how many horses have done that with that quirky track. How many horses are firing their best number down there? So we look for Dripping Gold in the 9th today at Gulfstream. And I mentioned at the top, it's been a fun month for you guys, and we'll go back and just review some of these and see, what might be up for some of these runners going forward and whatnot. But part of the month was just a few days ago, being the holiday week. It was a nice day at Zia a little earlier this week, and we're going to go back and look at the Zia Sprint here. It is going to be number 5, Jackson Traveler, getting it done. And you talk about a nice partnership horse. This is another one you bought for a relative song, as horses, top-level horses go these days. Subsequently, over $1 million. And this win we're looking at here in the Zia Sprint earlier this week was win number 12 and start number 34, 8 seconds, 5 thirds. Really productive runner. Talk a little bit about Jackson Traveler.
Well, I mean, we don't have enough time. I mean, he's just a horse that, 34 starts, 12 wins, 8 seconds, 5 thirds. You're looking at over $1 million in earnings. And if they ran the Breeders' Cup Sprint at Zia Park, I think we'd have to go because he is just dominated there. We won this race last year. Steve has done a magnificent job, Steve Asmussen, of spotting him and placing him around the country. You look at, we've run at Zia, we've won at Sunland, Oaklawn, Remington, Pimlico, Laurel. I mean, he's won stakes at 2 all the way to 6, and I mean, he's just a dream. And it's a tiny bit disappointing when you look at a horse like this, a Son of Money, and they're not really knocking down the door to stand him at stud. He's intact, and I look at him and I'm like, why wouldn't you want to breed to a horse like this who's so sound and so fast? But we'll just see how it all plays out. But he's a very, very special horse and a great horse to have for a partnership that's traveled all over the country with him.
And yeah, he's lived up to his name. It's fun to see how he's bounced around to various venues and done well wherever. As I say, 12th win in 34 starts, 5th win in 9 starts this year, and at a number of different tracks. So we'll see. The game plan, he was down at Oaklawn last year. Going to head back to Oaklawn?
I would expect. I mean, Steve is, you talk about just pushing all the right buttons with a horse. You look at me, and I can honestly say I don't think if he's with any other trainer, that this campaign only could have happened with a great trainer like Steve Asmussen. Yeah. I mean, you look at where he's gone and picked spots, and I mean, he found an allowance race at Remington, and things like that. How do you manage a horse like this? And now you look at his numbers. I mean, he's running phenomenal numbers, Seth. I mean, at 107, he runs at 107 and 4 at Zia. You just sit there and scratch your head.
Yeah, nice performance. Also wanted to hit on also at Zia was the Zia Park Derby, and you had a good second place finish there with Indispensable, who's part of your West Coast string for West Point in the barn of John Sadler. You got nipped earlier this week in the Zia Park Derby by Mr. Asmussen with Dymatic, who gets the win by half a length, but Indispensable, a decent little second place finish with Flavian Prat. And again, this is a nice little 3-year-old runner for you guys based out on the West Coast, Indispensable.
Yeah, and listen, he's a horse that it's taken a little while to figure him out. I mean, he showed some promise in his debut, and John Sadler, as a 2-year-old, ran him in the American Pharaoh. It didn't really go well. And then all of a sudden, it took like 6 more times for him to break his maiden, and you're sitting there scratching your head going, is this horse a little bit of a fraud? But once he popped back in July in Del Mar, he'd come back and run great in the Shared Belief, ran a winning race out at Oklahoma, and ran phenomenal at Zia. I mean, just unlucky I thought Jose Ortiz on the Asmussen horse cut the corner on us a little bit, and Flavian had to take us a little wide. But, I mean, listen, what a nice performance. And this is a horse that, we talk all the time that older handicap division, as you saw at the Clark yesterday, sometimes there's not a lot of depth in those fields. And I mean, this could be a horse I think will be big, sound, gorgeous son of Constitution that could be a horse to reckon with next summer in the Pacific Classic if you want to dream.
Yeah, and he does have that resume when you look. It just does look like he's getting better with experience.
Yeah, from a numbers perspective, he's just really starting to find himself. Yeah. And I think that, and you see it sometimes with some of these constitutions, big grandsons of Tappet, they get rolling. And he's out of a Candy Ride mare. And I think this horse, you're gonna if he stays healthy, this is gonna be a horse that people are gonna be talking about next year.
Indispensable. We'll keep our eyes open. All right, now I want to finally go back to 3 races from 3 weeks ago, because I was in here doing the afternoon show, and I believe one of the races we saw, I think you were down in New York in the winner's circle, if I'm not mistaken. I saw you down there. We're going to start at Churchill, though. Again, this was 3 weeks ago, and it was a nice certainly for West Point. Again, if you're a partnership, this is the kind of weekend you hope for. We'll go back and look at the River City 3 weeks ago down at Churchill. A race I have said over the years, there are a couple of races this time of year at Churchill, which I think are productive going forward. I always look at the winners coming out of these races as being horses I'll watch over the next few months into the next middle of next year. But we're going to see in the River City 3 weeks ago, it'll be number 8, Battle of Normandy, getting it done for West Point and Shug. This was the fourth win, actually. Came in with a 3-race win streak, including win up at Saratoga. So now the 4th straight victory and a pretty nice looking win as well. Talk about Battle of Normandy in the River City.
Yeah, this is one of those that you just sit there and you tip your cap to Shug McGahee. I mean, he was precocious at 2. We were second, lost with anticipation, just barely lost. And, we ran in the Pilgrim and the Breeders' Cup. And his 3-year-old campaign just didn't go as planned. I mean, we were right there in the Saratoga Derby. We were right there in the Dueling Grounds Derby. But when he comes back at 4, I mean, Shug just amazing to have him go 4 races, 4 wins in a row, a top quality competition at Saratoga, Aqueduct, and Churchill in the River City. And, here's a horse that legitimately is now a contender for the Pegasus Turf if everything goes right. So, I mean, Shug is just really taking a very precocious 2-year-old and kind of managed him through aches and pains, his 3-year-old little bone bruising, brought him back at 4 and, undefeated on the turf at 4 and going into a campaign of, a 5-year-old campaign that could be super special. You look at these older turf horses, Seth, we've had a lot of fun with them over the years with, the Twilight Eclipses of the world and the Ring Weekends of the world. But, this is a kind of horse that on this winning streak will be so much fun to see where he goes next year.
Yeah, it is almost like at the 4-year-old season, Shug kind of hit the reset button, a couple allowances, a couple optional claimers, then gets back into the stake after proving himself in those races, and it'll be fun going forward. So there are thoughts of Pegasus Turf then.
Yeah, as long as I think he deserves a shot.
Yeah.
He's in such great form, and I would say going forward, we have a couple of horses, Integration and Battle of Normandy, who are probably under consideration. But this guy's he's done everything right this year. And you looked at that River City, it never really looked in question to me. He just looked pretty comfortable.
And as I say, I'm pretty sure I saw you when I was in here doing the afternoon show down in the winner's circle after the Red Smith. Same afternoon as the River City. West Point has Integration in the Red Smith at Aqueduct. Red Smith's going to be the number 2 horse here for Flavian Prat, another Shug trainee. A horse that started the career with the win at Colonial and then followed that up and coming out of the maiden victory and wins the Virginia Derby. It's been a nice career. This was win number 5 and start number 10. Talk a little bit about Integration.
Yeah, Integration, he's a horse we've had high expectations for from day one. He's a really, really beautifully bred son of Quality Road. He started his career, as you mentioned, with a bang down in Colonial, winning the Virginia Derby and then the Hill Prince in New York. And things kind of went awry at the Pegasus last year and then went down to Churchill, down to Keeneland. And, the race at Churchill, we probably shouldn't have run there on 3 weeks rest. So it's really been listen, he's had a phenomenal year, but in some ways, not met up to expectations, and he's really put it together coming out of that Red Smith where hey, you know what, let's just hit the reset button, let's get him going. And I think he's another one that he is as good as he's advertised. He's just been a little unlucky and maybe things didn't set up the way he wanted spacing wise. But whether or not we go to the Pegasus with him is up in the air right now. But he looks so good in the Red Smith, and I know Shug is so high on him. This is the kind of horse that he has the pedigree. If we can get him that grade 1, he'll probably get an opportunity to stand stud at a place like Lane's End or somewhere else.
and it was a good-looking victory. He got the motor going, and that last 16th, he looked really good in the Red Smith. And I wanted to hit on one more before we wrap up. We talked about Carson's run. If you watch me enough, everybody knows I love the 3-year-olds on turf. Why? Because of like today with the Hollywood Derby, there's every venue has some kind of 3-year-old turf race going from January to December. But 3 weeks ago, the Hill Prince for the 3-year-olds down in New York, and Cugino is a nice little 3-year-old turfer that I've liked quite a bit from you guys. Going to be second in here behind the aforementioned Deterministic, who has had a quirky career and was coming out of that second to Carson's run in the Jockey Club Derby. So Deterministic follows up with the win in the Hill Prince, but a nice little second. Cugino's going to be number 2, Deterministic the number 3. Nice late run. It's just a little too late. Deterministic got the jump on Cugino, but talk a little bit about your 3-year-old Cugino.
Yeah, I mean, Cugino is just a awesome horse. He's another one like Integration. It's kind of been a little unlucky. I mean, Deterministic is a 3-time graded stakes winner this year and got an absolutely perfect trip. And we come flying. We're trying to get there on the outside, and he kind of fell asleep a little. Flavian said after the race that, probably could have warmed him up a little more, just because he just literally, when he asked him to go, he kind of was like, huh? What? And then when he finally did kick in, he come running and Deterministic, who's a high quality horse, just put us away. It's on the Liam's map. But, Cugino's the son of Swirling Candy out of the mare Adorable Miss. That makes him a half-brother to Battle of Normandy. It makes him a half-brother to Veronica Green. He's the real deal. He just, you look at it, he broke his maiden first time out, and then he was second by a lane, second by a neck, second by a nose. The Transylvania down at Keeneland probably was still, to this day, one of the toughest losses of the year for us. He comes back and he wins the Audubon. Things did not go well. He got sick on us. After the Audubon, we decided not to run in the Belmont Derby. We wanted to give him, thought it was too big, too close in the spacing. So we were going to point to the Saratoga Derby to run against Carson. And lo and behold, he got sick on us. And, he got sick once as a baby on us. And, it's just one of those things that I think his constitution, it takes him a little longer to get sick, get well after he gets a bug. And the race at Kentucky Downs is a total toss. I mean, he went down there. He might not have been himself, but to come back and run the Hill Prince like this, and we're going to run him in the Tropical Park Derby, Seth. He'll be running down at Gulfstream. So, I mean, we're going to get to see Cugino one more time before the end of the year, and I expect a huge effort out of Cugino. He's a horse that I'm hoping that his 4-year-old season, he'll become a household name.
Yeah, and again, that's one of those late season 3-year-old races on the turf that I like quite a bit. So I'll be looking for Cugino then. Tom, got to wrap it up. Always appreciate the visit and the conversation. Again, congratulations on a nice run over the last few weeks for West Point. I pulled up a graphic as well that has your website address, westpointtb.com, if people would like more information. It's always fun to watch you guys up at Saratoga. I'm glad when they redid the area, in the clubhouse, I'm glad they still kept some TVs there because it's fun to watch the West Point folks gather and watch some of the races from that TV on the ground floor of the clubhouse. It's fun to be part of a partnership and have some of the success like you guys have had over the last few weeks. So again, if people visit the website, they can learn more. But Tom, we appreciate the visit and good luck this afternoon.
Thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend.
You too. Tom Bellhouse, West Point Thoroughbreds. Again, nice little run for them over the past few weeks and beyond. And they have some nice runners in this afternoon as well. All right, we'll take a break. We'll shift our attention to Churchill. Closing weekend at Churchill. Nice 2-year-old action this afternoon. We'll talk about that and more with Joe Kristufek right after this.
They're back! The world's best horses, jockeys, and trainers have returned to Hallandale Beach, and the championship meet is on at Gulfstream Park. The action begins November 28th with live thoroughbred racing Thursday through Sunday. Take in the action trackside with a craft cocktail at the Carousel Club or head upstairs to a private suite or 10 Palms Restaurant. For stake schedules, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend Joe Kristufek. You see him pregame show, paddock commentary, usually paddock commentary. We'll get to that in a moment. He takes some time off when maybe there's a brilliant horse racing, and we'll hit on that in a moment. But wanted to get Joe in. It's closing weekend at Churchill, a little meet recap, some preview of the two-year-old stakes today, and more. Joe, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. And before we get going, also, I said, I was anticipating, I said, yeah, we're going to talk, when I let off the show, I said, we're going to talk to Joe, a little closing weekend at Churchill. But I said, he's probably in the car on Monday heading to New Orleans. Is that the case?
I mean, it's a quick turnaround, Seth, but not that quick. I'm going to drive half the way on Thursday, and for the first time, I'm going to stop, 12-hour drive, and then drive the rest Friday, and then I'll be on the air for the first time this season at Fairgrounds on Saturday.
Excellent. Looking forward to that as well. Fairgrounds underway for about the last week and a half or so. So that's always a fun venue in the wintertime. But we want to concentrate a little bit on Churchill with the last couple of days of the meet coming up. And I had to start out with, when I had you on, I schedule my guests, and then I look for some race replays to look at as we preview stakes and whatnot. And as the afternoon progressed, I said to the guys in the control room, we have to put the sixth race in from yesterday, as it were. Sixth race yesterday at Churchill. We're going to take a look at the stretch run, and it'll be number 8 in here, Johnny's Fireball. I said when I did the handicapping show in the afternoon, I said this is part of the Brilliant Racing partnership, along with some others as well. But I did note in the Brilliant Silks yesterday, that's nice. And so Johnny's Fireball, the number 8, comes down the stretch, opens up a little bit. And then it looks like maybe some others are coming, but Johnny's Fireball says no. Coming off of kind of a disappointing effort, certainly up at Saratoga. You guys shipped in, and then it was an off-the-turf event. You took your shot, and it didn't work out. But getting back to the turf yesterday, that had to be fun. The horse gets back to the grass, comes back down to Churchill. It's closing weekend, and I think we have a shot of you and the team in the winner's circle as well. Talk a little bit about the experience yesterday, the win with Johnny's Fireball.
Yeah, I mean, we knew the horse was doing well. The Saratoga race was a debacle, but it's nice when you still get paid. I think it was $10,000 for fourth. We got beat 60 lengths, so at least paid our expenses. And he hated it, but he came back out of it. We were hoping to get a race earlier in the meet, but we did have equal dates with everybody that ran at Keeneland, which I didn't think was fair. And we ran against a lot of those horses yesterday, so I was hoping to run twice this week. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Maybe the extra time helped, but we had a perfect post, a perfect race setup scenario, the perfect jockey aboard. the Brilliant Silks, and it all worked out according to plan, Seth. And in life and in horse racing especially, that usually isn't the case. But we enjoyed every minute of it, and that, quite honestly, going into his 7-year-old year next year, that might have been the best performance of his entire career.
It was certainly impressive. There's no question about it. I was a little bit surprised. Were you? I mean, the morning line was 6-1. I was surprised. Betting public was on him. He was a 3-1 favorite.
Yeah. That's, part of the brilliant influence with all of our partners. It happens a lot. There's a lot of money in the pools, though. We eventually floated up to 3-1. I don't really bet my horses unless they're going to be, really big prices and I know that they're going to run better than the odds. I normally don't bet, so I don't really care about that aspect. It's more about the win. Obviously, the purse is a bet in of itself. And what did we have? 200 people on the track for the winner's circle picture. I know trainer Norm Cassie had a bunch of family in for Thanksgiving. My group, Brilliant Racing, DC Racing, AJ Suited Racing with Justin Nicholson. We were well represented, to say the least.
Yeah, the picture people could see, they had to move you out on the track because you couldn't fit into the actual winner's circle area, but it was fun. I was smiling. I was really happy for you guys. And I also have a shot that has your website address if people want to check out Brilliant Racing, because I know over the partnership time, you guys have had some locals involved in some of your horses. And if people are all interested, brillianthorseracing.com, people can check that out. And are there any availabilities at the moment?
Yeah, we haven't done anything the last couple of sales. I think you're aware, Seth, my mom had some health issues.
Yeah.
We moved her to Kentucky. Time has been short for me, and if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So we've had 5 partnerships so far. There's going to be a 6th. We're still working on the final details of that. But if you're interested in joining up with us, just send us an email. We'll keep you on the waiting list. We'll reach out sooner rather than later, because this certainly is a passion of mine.
So people can check that out, certainly. All right, let's get into a little review from yesterday. Again, it's a holiday weekend, lots of stakes action going back to earlier this week at some tracks. But yesterday for you on a Friday, it was the Clark, a nice late season opportunity for the older horses. Hit Show comes in with the win streak for Brad Cox. Hit Show's going to run 3rd and eventually get DQ'd down to 5th. Hit Show's going to be the number 6. A horse I kind of jumped off of yesterday. I have liked Rattle and Roll throughout the career, and I've been on and off and on and off. Well, he gets it done yesterday. Rattle and Roll, the number 7 for Kenny McPeak. Nice winner. Most Wanted runs 2nd again. Hit Show 3rd, but winds up DQ'd to 5th. But a nice performance. Brian Hernandez on board for Kenny McPeak. Your thoughts on Rattle and Roll yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I did pick him. I was surprised to see him at 5-1, quite honestly. He needed that last race, and Kenny wanted to run him in the Breeders' Cup. He brought him all the way to Delmar. Was on the outside looking in, didn't get in the race. Came back to Churchill, trained as well as he ever had. And if you saw him in the paddock in the post-parade, I think I commented on it at one point how good he looked. He was a little bit concerned about the pace scenario, Seth, but with the slower pace up front, kind of kept him a little closer than he normally is. And Most Wanted did not want to lose. He's never lost in his career. He really dug in, but Rattle and Roll was just a little bit better. And putting an exclamation point, Kenny McPeak, Brian Hernandez got to pinch themselves after the year they've had with the Derby, the Oak, the likely horse of the year, and now a little icing on the cake with the Clark.
After the race, Kenny McPeak was kind of hinting at maybe Pegasus next for Rattle and Roll. You mentioned Most Wanted. Yeah, came in 4 for 4 for Brad Cox, Gary, and Mary West, and that was a nice performance. He moves into next year as, coming off of this effort, as you would think, a player in the older division. So it was a nice addition to the Clark yesterday with some horses to keep our eyes on going forward, no question about it. But today, it's the 2-year-old, speaking of horses to keep our eyes on. And let's kind of go through the 2-year-old action today down at Churchill. 6 races, the Ed Brown, $225,000 up for grabs for the 2-year-olds, going 6.5. Glean off of the maiden breaker last time is interesting to me. Now, we're going to take a look at it. It was Keeneland on October 20th. Glean is going to be the number 5 horse here. It's a Wesley Ward runner. and it's on the turf. And his first 2 races have both been on the turf. But the last workout over at Keeneland kind of, and it's Kenny McPhee, it's Wesley Ward with a sprinter. Glean is interesting. I'm going to have to see what the odds are. I would take the 7-2 morning line, but Tough Catch is going to be intriguing for Dallas Stewart, certainly. Wisconsin Gal, I think, is a player in here. What are your thoughts on the Ed Brown?
Yeah, you seem to have a stronger opinion on the race than I do here, Seth, which probably is going to work in your favor because I don't think it's the strongest race on the day. I think even some of the allowance races and the maiden races are more intriguing to me. But to see here, you have a little bit of a confidence level in Glean. I don't like Tough Catch, and that's who I wind up picking. He was second in the Bowman Mill last time. I don't think that was a very strong race. It was a 5-horse field. He got beat by a filly that day. But, kind of sort of by default, I think the 6.5 furlongs will benefit him. And unlike Glean, he is proven on the main track. So that's where I'm going to land in the Ed Brown.
Yeah, Glean, you also have McKenzie on top. And so the horse is interesting, even with the surface switch. I'm intrigued there. But as I say, it's going to be kind of odds dependent, too. 9th race this afternoon, the Goldenrod. 2-year-old fillies going 1 1/16 miles. I pulled up a replay of the Rags to Riches back in October down at Churchill. It'll be number 6, Good Cheer, getting it done to run the record to 3 for 3 for Brad Cox and Godolphin. Seems like a logical player in here. The 1 horse, another Brad Cox runner, Eclatant, I'm guessing, 2 for 2 so far. Looks to be a player. Quiet Side for John Ortiz. The finishing positions have been going backwards since the maiden breaker at Saratoga, but I think this is a nice little 2-year-old filly, certainly fixing to be as maybe an outsider. What are your thoughts on the Goldenrod?
Well, Golden Cheer has been dominant in her start so far, and it remains to be seen whether or not she's a top-tier Brad Cox filly moving forward in the fairgrounds, where I know she's going to be loaded. She can easily win. Does that mean she's top tier moving forward because she won the Grade 2 Goldenrod? I don't think this is the strongest race we've seen in recent years. Torpedo Anna ran second in this race last year, so I think that's worth noting. And, she's been just dominant in her margins of victory sets, but some of it's been circumstantial, some of it's been the competition. I like Johnny Ortiz's filly here. He could have easily gone on the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies, elected to take the extra time off, stick around here for the Goldenrod, and I think it might work to his benefit. You see her resume. She's got some class. I think she's run better than it even looks on paper, so I'm going to give her the slight edge. Eclatant stretching out for the first time, I think, is intriguing from the rail. And if you look top to bottom on this card, Brad Cox is absolutely loaded.
Let's turn the page now and take a look. Race number 10 this afternoon is the Fern Creek. These are 2-year-old filly sprinters. And I'm going to pull up a replay of the obvious player in here, Echo Sound. 3 for 3, Rusty Arnold trainee. This is the Myrtlewood back in October at Keeneland. Echo Sound is going to be the number 3 horse. I'm taking a shot with Impulse Bay in here. It's second choice behind Echo Sound. Echo Sound 2-1 on the morning line. Impulse Bay is 5-2. But a nice maiden breaker, second in the Tempted last time. That one is intriguing to me. The 4-horse, She's So Spicy, coming off a big debut win down at Gulfstream, intriguing. And if you're playing around a little bit, I thought Praying was maybe a player as well. What did you see in the Fern Creek?
Yeah, the difference to me was the post positions between Echo Sound and Impulse Bay. Echo Sound buried down on the rail. She's obviously very talented. I like her quite a bit, but I like Impulse Bay a little bit better. Probably better suited to running on Black Friday, Seth, but we can't pick our days for this stuff. She was a co-favorite with the Brad Cox filly Stunner last time out in the Tempted, and she was second best to her that particular day. But I like the cutback from the mile at Aqueduct back to this, sprinty distance in this one. And like I said, I like the post for Impulse Bay. You mentioned the other ones that I'm interested in, but that's the one I'm going to go with on top.
Yeah, I'm there too. I'm intrigued. And Gaffleone back in riding after that spill. What, it was a couple of Saturdays ago? Or
a couple of Saturdays ago, and he tried to ride, and that didn't go so well. And he took the time he needed, but seems to be back in pretty good form now.
And finally, it's the Kentucky Jockey Club, race number 11 today, $400,000 for the 2-year-olds, going 8.5 furlongs. I pulled up a replay of Jonathan's Way winning the Iroquois back in September, the number 10 horse. Subsequently, one of the disappointments, along with Patrick Chancellor McPatrick. I had it backwards.
There was a lot of disappointments in that juvenile set.
I think Jonathan's Way stands a good chance to rebound. Looking at this effort the last time the horse was at Churchill, rendered judgment to me very interesting for Kenny McPeak at 12-1 on the morning line though, and Tistastic for Steve Asmussen seems perhaps a player as well. I think it's an interesting race. What do you see in the Jockey Club?
Yeah, it's an interesting race. I'm kind of sort of against Jonathan's Way. You know, it's disappointing that effort in the Breeders' Cup, but, you know, he might just be better than this field. I haven't been overly impressed by the recent works, but he can win, you know, but it's the kind of horse I'm going to try to beat. First resort, I saw break his maiden at Ellis back in July. Ran in the Saratoga Special. I thought he ran well behind Showcase, who was just awesome that day. And then he ran in the summer at Woodbine and was a good fourth in that race on the turf. Then you look at the pedigree, the Dam was a Grade 1 winning sprinter, a fair maiden, but the Grand Dam was an absolute marathoner. So I think this could be an exciting prospect moving forward. You get Louis Sias for Owen Hardy and Godolphin. And I like the draw, too. I like the post. Tistastic had some trouble in the street set, but he ran second to Sovereignty. And Sovereignty, Seth, I got in on him on Pool 1 of the Derby Future Wager. I want to see what the odds are going to be in Pool 2. That's a horse I'm extremely high on. So I did like Tistastic going into that race. I like him a little bit better today.
Very good. And so there's the stakes action today. I will mention tomorrow, Bango goes for the Churchill winningest record. That's tomorrow. Going to be rooting for that one. Julien Leparoux this week got his 3,000th win. It's been a very fun meet down at Churchill. Lots of great performances, horses and humans. And on the human side, I pulled up the stats going into the last couple of days. Louis Sias clearly will be the leading jockey, 39 wins versus Tyler Gaffleone with 19. So Sias ahead. And Steve Asmussen, 17 wins versus Brad Cox with 12. On the human side of things, Sias and Asmussen, both with very good meets.
Yeah, and we got that big Derby City 6 jackpot, the carryover pool today. Starts in race 7, at $218,000, and obviously mandatory payouts tomorrow. So if the jackpot survives, it's essentially going to be free money in the card tomorrow. And I know quite a few people that are looking very forward to playing it.
Ooh, I'm glad you mentioned that because, mandatory with a payout like that is certainly going to be very, very attractive. As I mentioned, Bango tomorrow, fan favorite. I'm sure folks will be looking forward to that.
Yeah, not to correct you, Seth, but he did break the record the last time he ran. So
he broke it?
They got that monkey
I
up
thought
the back.
He tied it.
He did.
Okay.
No, he broke it. He had tied it last year, but he broke it. I got a sign and everything. And believe me, the pressure's off now. So,
okay, all right.
Yeah, he did break it. And he actually threw in a clunker in his most recent start, kind of, sort of. But, back on track, hopefully, with him. It'll be exciting to see him back on the track. And another 12 races to go at it tomorrow. And Monday we rest to a certain extent, and then we get geared up to drive to New Orleans next week.
For the Fairgrounds meet. Also wanted to mention, we mentioned Kenny McPeak and Torpedo Anna. He's been so generous with that horse with the fans and had Torpedo Anna out doing a little paddock schooling yesterday, and it seemed like that was a popular move as well.
Yeah, I think they were throwing hats out to the crowd, and they had some posters, and it was, one of the big reasons why a guy like Kenny McPeak wins the Big Sport of Turfdom Award because, he ran her against the boys. He ran her in the distaff. He's never been afraid to take on a challenge, and she more than rewarded him. And it's been, like I said, a dream year for that team.
Yeah, and up here at Saratoga, he would say, "Hey, tomorrow morning at such and such a time, going to be out on the Oklahoma working out," and so very generous with the horse, and it's paid off certainly for him, and I think it will in spades at the Eclipse Awards. And I just wanted to finally mention, we alluded to it a little bit earlier, but there's also a Derby Future Pool wager this weekend, so people might want to keep their eyes on that as well.
Yeah, and it's individual horses. I think this is a good pool to get involved in. And then the sire wager, which I love. It's the only sire wager that's going to be offered. So, you bet on Into Mischief, you get all the Into Mischief. So not a bad way to have multiple rooting interests going into the road to the Kentucky Derby.
And I have to look it up because I didn't click at the time, but I think Kevin Kirstein tweeted out some kind of like book-sized look at the offspring of all the sires, which is probably worth taking a look at. But again, a little extra info there on the sire side of things, as there is a sire wager this weekend as well. Joe, appreciate the visit. Again, congratulations yesterday on the nice win with Johnny's Fireball. Be looking for his next start as well. Everybody down there, give my best to Tony and all the folks down there at Churchill. And then when you get down to Fairgrounds, Kevin Kilroy as well. But have a great weekend closing up at Churchill, and travel safe down to New Orleans.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Seth. Enjoy this great racing weekend. Catch up with you in New Orleans. And, I'll let everybody know that you said, hey, do the same for me, please.
Appreciate it. Joe Kristufek, again, you see him pregame, you see him in the paddock, and I always say their pregame show is one of my favorites. They have it's like sitting around with some folks at the track before the day gets off, and they have good conversation, and the signature plays. It was a nice addition, so it's a lot of fun. But you see Joe down there every Churchill Day, and starting next week, every Fairground Day throughout the winter. So looking forward to that as well. Before I wrap up here, let me just alert you that today I'm going to hop in my car right after this, and we're going to do OTB Live, have cut-ins from Partners Pub in Johnstown. It's a fan appreciation day. If you're out in that direction, stop by. I'll be there along with, I believe, Shannon from the marketing department and a few other folks. But as always on a fan appreciation day, there'll be some food, some vouchers and PPs, a contest that's always a lot of fun. You can win a little extra something. That's a fan appreciation day at the Partners Pub. Gives us our chance to say thank you to you. Stop by this afternoon and say hello. And don't forget Sundays throughout the season, football Sundays here at the Clubhouse Racebook. We'd love to have you stop down and enjoy all the racing action and all the football action as well. And if you're a Bears fan, don't worry. They played a couple days ago, so you won't have to live through that. Oh, boy, that was, talk about bad clock management. And then the coach says, that was actually a good idea. And we had 28 seconds and didn't. That was not a good idea, coach. And then subsequently, the coach is gone. So, but it gives us all something to talk about, and you can get that subject matter this afternoon. Hopefully, if your team is playing, they will have it a little more. I'm a Jets fan, so I know how all of that goes. But you can watch all the games down here at the Clubhouse Racebook throughout the NFL season on Sundays. And, of course, all the racing action. And I always say, grab a little lunch at our food vendor, Black Bear. They have a great menu. So keep all of that in mind for Sunday afternoons here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Or you come down any other time and grab the food and watch the sports on the screen at the end. On a day like today, Saturday, there'll be college basketball and whatnot on the sports screens also. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America for this Saturday morning. Again, I'm going to hop in the car and head out to Partners Pub. So you see live cut-ins all afternoon from out in that direction. As far as here in the studio, we'll be back in tomorrow morning for Racing Across America on a Sunday. As usual, we'll do a little recap action of some of the nice stakes action, not only from today. There have been, as we saw earlier, there was nice stakes action earlier this week. We looked at a couple of those from Zia already, but Mahoning Valley on Monday had the Steel Valley Sprint, which was a rich stakes race for them. And Churchill has had some stakes. Del Mar has had some stakes. New York has run some stakes on the subsequent holiday Friday and going back to Thanksgiving Day. So we'll take a look at a lot of that, and of course today's stakes action as well in recap tomorrow on Racing Across America. All right, Seth Merrow in the studio. As always, thanks for joining us. Thanks to Tom Bellhouse for joining us, Joe Kristufek, and thanks to you. I'll wrap it up. We'll be back in. We'll probably jump in our first cut in from a Partners Pub a little after noontime, probably. Maybe earlier. Now that I'm thinking, it's 11:40 post in New York, so I will keep you guessing. I'm trying to think. I'm hopping in the car, and how long is it going to take? We probably will be there by the time things kick off in New York. So we will be back on from Partners Pub sooner rather than later with cut-ins all afternoon. So you can look forward to that. I'm certainly looking forward to it, and wrapping it up, Racing Across America. But again, back in a little bit later this afternoon on the road up in Johnstown. We'll see you then.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle. They're back! The world's best horses, jockeys, and trainers have returned to Hallandale Beach, and the championship meet is on at Gulfstream Park. The action begins November 28th with live thoroughbred racing Thursday through Sunday. Take in the action trackside with a craft cocktail at the Carousel Club, or head upstairs to a private suite or 10 Palms restaurant. For stake schedules, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.